Welcome back to the morning show here on Arise News. In today's fast-paced media environment where news cycles are fleeting and attention spans are shorter than ever, can media professionals truly leave a lasting legacy that endures beyond their active careers? Big question now arises as to their contributions. Do they fade with each new headline, or are there qualities that allow some remain influential for generations to come? The life and career of Doyin Abiola, Nigeria's first female newspaper editor, who recently passed away, stands as a testament to Nigerian media excellence. Her journey is a story of pioneering leadership, bold editorial choices, and groundbreaking achievements for women in journalism. Abiola's legacy highlights not only personal triumph, but also the media industry's duty to recognize and honor contributions of its trailblazers.
My mother, she was my mentor, she was my teacher. For a very long time, she was my two-in-one parent, because obviously I lost my father when I was much younger. So yes, and she was a very good friend to me as I got older. I think my mother was very intentional as a mother. A lot of things that she did were well thought out. It wasn't accidental. And I think obviously she also put God first. When you have children, I believe that as parents, I am a mother as well, as parents we're guardians, but the truth of the matter is that God gave us those children. So she put God first, but was also very intentional as to what kind of mother she was.
It's difficult for me to say who she was specifically, but to me she meant a lot to me. She meant a lot to me. We lived together for so many years. She was in the life of my children, my life. She played a very, very pivotal role to, my marriage, to her daughter, even my professional life. She advised me. She was my confidant. She meant a lot. She was very forthright. Integrity, was very, very important to her. She did everything she could to let us understand that unity was something that we'd never compromise. It was important that we did the right thing. You stay humble, you listen more than you speak, and, always stay true to yourself.
My time with her was pleasant. We did most things together, traveled together. We went to the same school. She was a year ahead of me. We were very, very close. Our travels were most enjoyable. We reared her daughter together, and even the grandchildren. We took care of them together. Doyin was very passionate about her career, but at the same time, she took very good care of her daughter. Being an only one, she was very passionate about what she did for her and the time she spent with her. She combined both her work with motherhood.
Well, joining us now to explore the late Doyin Abiola's life and impact, as well as the broader implications for the media sector, is Dr. Victor Okhai, a renowned literary analyst, producer, scriptwriter, and director who will now offer insights into how her work continues to inspire and what the industry must do to preserve such legacies. Thank you so much for joining us on the morning show this morning. Now, speaking about Dr. Doyin Abiola's career, I would like you to speak to what exactly made her contributions stick, especially with regards to public consciousness. Even as headlines kept changing, news became much more fast-paced and the media industry evolved. What was it about her legacy that remained in public consciousness for you?
I think it is actually that part of her that not too many people talk about, which is exactly where she started with her column, Tiro, in the Daily Sketch at the time. This was a time when, columnists were mainly men. She was a pioneer columnist, and she spoke about not only gender issues, but also public affairs, at the time. She was a lone voice, a strong voice, a female voice when women were, if you like, in the manner of speaking, to be seen and not heard. So that marked, what was going to turn out to be her career going forward. That very strong voice. And I guess that, even at the time, if the fact that, she was able to maintain a column at that time and very strongly, but didn't just end at that. Looking at her background in English and drama, I decided to go further to study journalism immediately afterwards. She wasn't just content with where she was. Just shows you the kind of person that she was, the kind of determination and resoluteness to be the best at what she does and to really and eventually she did get to the very pinnacle of her career.
All right, fantastic, Dr. Okhai. What do you think that she'll mostly be remembered for, given that you mentioned her column in the defunct sketch Tiro in those days? But of course, you know that she was also a group features editor of the same newspaper
come to that, yes.
before she went to Daily Times and ultimately becoming the first woman, female editor at National Concord, and ultimately editor-in-chief and managing director, first female editor-in-chief in the country as at that time.
Yes.
We know that by what she was able to do, she inspired a generation of other female editors, and I'm talking in terms of Amaogan, Kadiri Ahmed, Ijoma Nwogugu, Funke Gbemode, Bisideji Folutile, Juliet Boomer, so many other women who are doing quite well. How do you think that she'll be remembered, and what do you think her legacy will be, given that she did quite well in more than 50 years that she spent in active journalism?
I think her legacy would be, in my estimation, or my view, breaking the ceiling and the barrier for women. Which was why I started from where she started from. The fact that, look at what happened when she got to Daily Times. As soon as she came back and she went to Daily Times, they offered her woman editor, which was, stereotyping in a manner of speaking. Okay, you're a woman, go and talk about women. Consciously or unconsciously, the men had concluded that that's what she'll be best at. And she rejected it and decided to just be a feature writer because she knew what she had, she knew what she was capable of doing. She knew that she was, first of all, a human being, a writer, a damn good journalist. And so she rejected that appointment and decided to just be a features writer. Eventually, she rose to be the head of features there before, moving up in her career. So for me, we may talk about her being the first female editor, first female editor-in-chief, first female managing editor. But for me, I think her biggest legacy is breaking the barrier. Someone had to do it, and she was the one that did it. Just breaking that glass ceiling of the stereotyping of women in the newsroom.
I love that you spoke about, her breaking gender barriers in journalism, because, this is such a pivotal time as well that we are in. Now, still piggybacking off her legacy, what does this tell us about her vision for women in journalism, and how would you say her success as the first female editor-in-chief of a daily paper, how would you say this opened doors for women, and what is the reality of that in today's journalism? Okay,
so you know that change is often resisted, especially in organizations that are traditionally, if you like, male-dominated, like as at the time, like journalism. And so, she provided, when she broke in, she provided leadership. She was a leader in the sense that, and you will hear a lot of journalists who credit her with inspiring them. Someone like Owen Fakolia, his mother in journalism. It's very rare. It just shows her leadership qualities beyond just being a writer. She was able to inspire, and it made it easier for women to rise to such leadership positions without people feeling necessarily that, oh, why would a woman be my boss? I mean, today we take it for granted, but we're traditionally, I don't want to call it chauvinistic, but male-dominated society, especially in our recent past. So she was able, by the things that she did, and look at her trajectory. This is something I really want to talk about. It's interesting that she could have ended up she had a job with her first degree, but she left the job, went further, to get a master's degree in journalism abroad. Did this, came back, and when she came back, she could have been comfortable, at Daily Times there, where the position where she had risen to and all that. But no, she went back again and got a PhD. It just tells you that this was a woman who, at every point in time, she kept on raising the bar for herself. Nobody was pushing her. She was pushing herself. She kept on raising the bar, raising the bar, raising the bar. You couldn't help but respect her. You couldn't help but look up to her. You couldn't help but just be inspired by all that she represented, because she demonstrated it both in her work, in her leadership style, and in the examples that she set, both in her professional life and in her personal life as well.
Mm. All right, that's quite nice. I like the fact that you emphasized, our trajectory, our academic, and career trajectory, a first degree, master's degree, a PhD in journalism. So when people say, MQ Abiola's wife was made the MD, don't look at the fact that she was MQ Abiola's wife. No. Look at the fact that this is a solid, well-rounded professional who knew her onions.
Yes.
But I never worked at the Concord. So I didn't encounter in the newsroom. But I also had a very close relationship, with her outside of the Concord. Of course, that Auntie Abuaba, our sister, she's part of us in the drama and the music world.
Yes.
But of course, I mentioned it on this program yesterday when I unveiled my book in 2016 at NIIA. She was one of the panelists, Dr. Abiola, Dr. Doyin Abiola, and one of the chief presenters. And one key thing that she emphasized, which I would like you to comment on, talking about how media industry has progressed, since she left Concord. One of the key things she mentioned was the fact that don't let us continue to say legacy media will remain the way they are. Things will change, and women will play an important role, particularly in digital journalism. And I think that she made reference to the fact that two of the biggest bloggers, as at that time, and I will believe that they are still two of the biggest bloggers, are female, Linda Ikeji on the one hand, and then the lady who publishes Bella Niger.
Yes.
And so as at that time, almost 10 years ago, she knew that this profession will have to have a new direction. What therefore will be your thoughts, Dr. Okhai, in the sort of thing that she envisaged will happen? People are saying, who is a journalist, who is not a journalist? Everybody is going online, but then are we doing real journalism? What are your own assessments of what is happening to this profession, given that even somebody like Dr. Doyin Abiola realized at that time that things will never remain the same for this profession?
Now, thank you very much for that question. See, it just tells you how progressive-minded she was. Let me go into something in her story or in her trajectory that will throw more light into what I'm about to say now. You would recall how she understood. She was innovative, understood the importance of innovation. You would recall that Saturdays, as we knew at the time, was a very dull. I mean, it's like what happens on Saturdays. Monday to Friday, all the big political stories, all the headlines, have been cast, and we know that big news. Saturday, it was usually a downtime, but she looked at things and thought things could be different. And when she saw the opportunity, she came back after a trip abroad and then said, "Look, guys, Saturday can be different. It doesn't have to come down." And so she started, of course, entrusted Mike Awenyifa, with the vision that she had, and he ran with it. And it turned around Saturday and indeed weekend journalism. And Weekend Concord became easily the highest selling newspaper, in Nigeria, even up till today. So, although it's now extinct, but, so it just tells you how open-minded she was and how she understood trends and could predict trends. And so what happened during when she spoke during your book launch was just her vision, because she could see the trend and the way things were going. You might say at her age, even at the time, which wasn't very long ago, she was already, in her in her 70s.
She was 73.
Yes, at the time, that she could relate to what many people of her age were not that internet savvy. It wasn't their business. But she understood the power of the medium, whatever the medium was. She understood the trend and the way it was going, and she understood that the digital, if you like, journalism or the digital world was the way things were going. She had seen what was happening, and she also understood that journalism as it is dynamic, and it was not going to remain the same. And so in saying what she said, you can say she saw tomorrow, you know, and she has been proven right today. We're talking about Linda Ekeji, we're talking about Bella Niger, but also look at, I mean, if you look at all the media houses right now, name them, CNN, Al Jazeera, Sky News, Arise TV, name them, TVC, whatever, they are all online today. And journalism is no longer the way it used to be. Now, I mean, you recall that in the past you needed, for live broadcasts, you needed huge broadcast vehicles. Now you just need a live view or, you know, any small, you know, you don't need big equipment anymore to be able to do live broadcasts, you know, for breaking news and all of that. And not only that, you find that today, the way news is, instantly you can transfer. You can wherever you are, you can write your news and send to newsroom immediately, you know. And look at the what you call it now, what's the name now? I'm trying to remember the terminology for it. I can't remember. If I remember, I'll say it. Where all the media have now been consolidated into your palm top, in a manner of speaking. Now you both. News. I mean, if you like.
You're talking in terms of access to news consumption.
Yes, not just news consumption now, but there's a term I can't quite remember it. But yes, if you can also look at news consumption, because basically every news now can be consumed not in the traditional sense anymore, although those ones still remain. But it has changed. It's so dynamic now. You now have citizen journalists or citizen journalism. You know, we might argue and say that there is traditional news, okay, but you have the non-traditional one, but people are consuming all kinds of news. And I was at a conference recently, a broadcast conference, and then someone was saying, I think it was the DG of Voice of Nigeria, he said something that really struck me. He said, the difference now is that everybody can be a journalist now, but what differentiates a traditional journalist from if you like, citizen journalists is context. Because when stories break, the traditional journalists are able to give context to it, and they give a background different from what the other journalists would do. But basically, I think in speaking to the issue, she was able to see tomorrow, and it meant that if she had remained practicing till today, I can assure you that whatever media house she would have sat atop would have remained dynamic and would have been ahead, because she would have embraced technology, she would have embraced the trends, and she would have, you know, she would have been on top of her game.
I couldn't agree with you more. Now, everything I hear you speak to is equally audacity, because there's no way she could have done everything that she did without facing some adversity, you know, in her career. Adversity that could have led to several challenges, which we saw her, you know, receive several awards and honors for, including the Wole Soyinka Lifetime Award for Journalistic Excellence in 2010. I would like to speak some more to this adversity, especially as a woman, as a female, you know, within the industry, and how she was able to overcome some of them.
Okay, so again, it goes into her history and her life story. When you look at the fact that when she joined the Daily Times, the first thing they offered her was woman editor. It spoke to her. I'm sure deep down in her heart she must have felt offended and maybe a bit insulted professionally, not in a very strong sense, but if you understand what I mean, like, is this what they think? Is this all they think I'm capable of? You know, I'm made of more, you know? And so she decided, if you like, instead of taking an editor position, just took the position of a writer to prove her point. She overcame by demonstrating her capability on the features desk and rose to head that desk as a features editor. But she didn't just stop at that. Why did she decide to go back to school some more and add more? It was all in a bid. You know, sometimes it's like when you talk about blacks in America, where they have to prove themselves twice. They have to work twice as hard to earn their position. It's the same with women. In her case, she had to prove herself at every step of the way. By the time she became Dr. Doyin Abiola, you couldn't look down on her anymore. There was no way you could, as a fellow journalist, she didn't need to do that. But, at that point, she needed, you could see that some of the things she was doing, apart from being driven, self-driven, some of what she was doing was trying to prove a point to her male folk, to prove to people she was dealing with that she was made of so much more, that she was capable, and she was, not just able but capable of doing what she was doing. So I think that she worked, if you saw what she did, even the Concord became like a flagship. We had the Guardian, but the Concord was a very, very, very strong paper, at the time, the contending. And remember, it was new compared to the Guardian at the time. So that she proved a point at every step of the way, breaking those barriers, those gender barriers. And I think she opened the way for women generally in journalism.
All right, I was going to pick you up on when you use the word flagship. Yeah. I thought that I hope you're not raising a controversy.
No.
But very quickly, before we let you go, Dr. Okhai, she worked three of the newspapers. In fact, those were the three papers where she worked are all somewhat defunct today. From Daily Sketch, which at the time Dr. Jimoh Ibrahim tried to revive, but somehow it just didn't work. To Daily Times, which it's been sold and it's come back in the sort of way that many people will say, oh, this is not the old Daily Times that we know. Yeah. And of course, National Concord is yet to return. Do you think that this is a commentary on a legacy status of Nigerian print media in Nigeria? Yes, there are papers, like Tribune, like Punch, who have done more than 50 years. But then you see that at all the three papers where she worked, apart from Daily Times, which return in some way, are defunct. Is this a commentary? And then very quickly adding to that is that, will you think that with Aunty Doyin's exit now, there can be concrete, decisive talk about the possibility of returning National Concord to the newsstands? I know that there were a number of efforts made at that time, and it was left to her, between her and Kola Abiola, to decide. But then now she's no more. Kola is still around with us, with many of his brothers and sisters. Do you foresee a possibility in the nearest future that National Concord can return for Aunty Doyin and, of course, for MKO?
Quite frankly, I think even if just for the memory or for the sake of what they represent, just like Daily Times is doing its best to come back, I think that all these papers, they hold fond memories for Nigerians, and even if for nothing, Concord represented not just an era, but it was something that meant quite a lot to us as Nigerians, for those who were old enough at the time to appreciate what it represented. I hope that the family can just find a way, even if it's going to start online, to see how they can bring back the Concord.
Absolutely, given what the likes of Premium Times,
yes,
have done now.
Have done, yes, and Daily Times and the rest of it.
All right. Okay, thank you so very much, Dr. Okhai. We want to thank you for sharing your thoughts with us on the very respectable Dr. Doyin Abiola. Thank you. Thank you indeed.
Thank you for having me.